Welcome to Destination Linux, the brutal game show arena of open source survival, where every commit dodges the lasers of proprietary hunters. Straight out of the running, man. I'm your Damon Killian this week. Ryan hosting the carnage from the control booth with my gladiator squad ready to execute closed source stalkers and crown Linux the ultimate champion. Jill is our Amber Mendez, sassy. She's very sassy lately. Animation professor, rebel with a vintage PC uplink, broadcasting open source takedowns faster than she can hack the network feed. Sherrard, welcome back.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, because you're a guest of honor, you get to be our Ben Richards, battle-scarred enterprise warrior blasting through server traps with Red Hat Resolve and a glare that says, "I'll be back," for the code.
Oh, I
His
love
mantra, run free or get iced with proprietary.
Yeah,
This
you're
week's
our
death
Arnold.
That's it. This week's deathmatch, we're unleashing our can't live without open source apps, decoding listener feedback on the Bookstore Vanishing Act, battling the AI apocalypse for OS supremacy, saluting Linux as gaming's rogue gladiator, and dropping our software pick, plus more arena ambushes. That is if we can get to all of that. So grab your Zone Runner gear, sync your repos, and remember, in open source, the crowd goes wild when freedom wins the prize. Don't touch that dial. This is Destination Linux. So first, before we begin, we've got to welcome you officially back, Sherrard, to our show. We are so happy to have you back. First of all, the show you did where we interviewed you was absolutely amazing. I actually listened to that show again recently. The stories you told were absolutely fabulous. People in the community loved it. And the fact that you came back means that you have a lot of grit. That's why you got to be Arnold.
Look, I'm just happy you all had me back. You know, I use that episode to fall asleep every single night. So I like to hear myself talk. But no, it's,
oh, we share that in common. I do that with my episodes.
It soothes me. Yeah. So I'm very familiar with that. No, just kidding. No, it's so good to be back. Best wishes to Michael. Speedy recovery there. I would have been back even if he hadn't had his unfortunate accident. But it's great to be here. You all are awesome. Just happy to be in another room with you all.
Oh, thank you so much.
We are honored by your presence.
Yes.
Seriously, Sherrard.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you here. It means a lot to us. And we're going to have you host the whole show with us. So no interview. In fact, I was looking at some of your notes. It looks like you're going to be interviewing us. I like how you turn the tables. That's a power move. That's
how you get the heat off of you.
That's it. I love it. Let's do it. All right, let's get into our community feedback. We received feedback from Chris who says, what bookstores even have computer sections anymore? So Chris is talking about, in our last episode, we were discussing missing the bookstores, and also wanting to go to the bookstores. And I immediately head for the computer section. And that was my go-to. I love being in a bookstore. I love the smell of a bookstore. I love the coffee in a bookstore. It's just, I love the whole vibe, but they're going away. Like, you barely see them anymore. And that's kind of what we were talking about. And so they're commenting on that, saying it's sad that the days of going to Barnes and Noble or Borders, browsing the computer book section, or Linux magazines are practically over. We still have a Books A Million in the mall where we live, just west of Houston. And I used to be able to purchase Linux format magazines there. Now that's all just a thing of the past. Enjoyed the program with Ryan and Jill at the helm. Thanks for the great show. Hope to meet you all in person one day. Thought that might have happened at Texas Linux Fest 2025, but it seems it wasn't meant to be. Sad face. Yes, I didn't get to make it this year, even though I did get moved to Texas. But maybe next year I can make it there because it's not that far away and it would be a really fun event. Jill doesn't travel, unfortunately, or else I'd definitely make sure Jill was there. But you can see Jill at the California Expo.
Yeah, Southern California Linux Expo. And in fact, the Texas Linux Fest is kind of a fork of the Southern California Linux Expo. There's a lot of the same people working on that conference too.
Now, when you say a fork, Jill, I feel like we were the original. So I feel like you're the fork of us.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Oh,
Are those fighting words, Jill?
Yeah.
Yeah, she said yes.
let's take this to the open source. I think we got to battle this out in a GitHub issue.
That's it. No, I'm kidding. So that's awesome, Jill. That I didn't know that it was a fork and some of the same people work on that. That's awesome. They finished with take care. Hope Michael's doing well in his recovery. On that note, Michael has released a couple of videos. If you want to go check those out, he's restarting Twill as his kind of his first step. I know he's extremely busy because of everything that's happened and then dealing with all of that, plus all the business stuff that he's had. And so getting Twill is like first priority right now. So, but anyways, appreciate all the thoughts there and the kind words. This is an interesting topic since they're, saying that kids in school now spend over 50% of their reading time on digital screens versus physical books now.
Only 50?
Yeah.
That's what I said, because my kids, it's probably more like 90%.
Yeah.
I question that survey.
Yeah. There may be some schools left in like rural areas, but everything's a Chromebook now. Like all my kids have Chromebooks. They have to come home, charge them, and me and the wife have to make sure the Chromebooks are charged before they go to school the next morning, because if their Chromebooks aren't charged, they get in trouble because everything's on their Chromebook, obviously. So it's kind of a thing. I agree with you, Sherrod. I'm surprised it's not more. Maybe it is now. There's also a lot of studies, though, that have been done showing that there's more of a physical and emotional connection when you're reading from a physical book versus digital. And not only that, some of the studies from a psychology site I was looking at was saying 6 times higher reading comprehension in a physical book over a digital one. 6 times higher.
That makes sense.
Initially, Jill, I just thought I was old, right? And it turns out I am. But also, it turns out that part of it isn't just because I'm old, that holding a book to me and actually reading through a book and turning those physical pages connects differently than any time I've tried to get a digital e-reader. And I've had them all. I must have spent, I always sell them on eBay, but I must have spent probably over $1,000 or more on different e-readers over the years, thinking, this one, maybe if I get a smaller form factor or a bigger form factor or a color e-ink form factor or whatever, that I would basically be able to get my books digitally and use them there. But I never stick with it. And I end up ordering the physical books versus even learning something. Like if I'm going to take on a new language, like when I first started learning Python again, the websites are helpful. But I went and bought a physical Python book because there's something about being able to pace yourself, turning the physical pages, writing that code alongside
outlining
that book.
it and notes. And
it just, I don't know. It's different.
Yeah.
Do you think when they went from like stone tablets to papyrus, they had the same question? Like, man, boy, I just really felt it when I moved those stones over from one page to another
click.
versus papyrus. I don't know.
They're probably more like I had big muscles when I was moving the stones, and now I can just sit here and I'm just gaining weight, only moving with twice.
They discussed this on the first Stonecast, right? The first Stonecast episode instead of a podcast.
There's always pushback on new technology, no matter what it is. Like we see this in Linux all the time. It could be something small. It could be changing in the something bigger, like changing the audio system. Even if it's in almost 99% cases better, the new system, and I'm talking about Pipewire, definitely better. People still hold on and are like, no, I want that old thing. But I don't think this falls into that category just because there's studies that support my bias, Sherrod, and my bias is that physical books are better. So because of that, I don't think this fits in that fold. And that's what I'm going with, as wrong as that might be. Because I want physical books to come back. I love bookstores.
Yeah. So, as you know, I was an animation instructor for 30 years. Right. And it's my students, because they're artists, learn mostly visually. But to have a book to draw from, to do tutorials and whatnot, was just so much better for them. In fact, I immediately noticed, and this is 20 years ago, I noticed that they retained the information better when they were reading it from a book and not from an ebook.
There you go.
So,
yeah.
and part of that is just the even though they were using the computer, just turning the pages because their focus was on something physical. I think and reading those words in, that are real.
Well, someone was saying also that
Really,
there are, and I don't know that this is good for you, but that smell in the bookstore, which I can smell it right now just thinking about it, is in fact the certain chemicals that paper naturally releases, and it creates that scent.
Yeah.
So we know that like having something physical is creating multiple senses are being basically aroused at the same time when you have something physical versus something that's just digital. Now, you do have that digital tablet you're holding, but you're not physically moving those pages and you're not physically seeing the progress that you're making in the book as well. I think there's a lot of psychology to being able to see your progress of that book from beginning to end, meaning when you get it in the middle, then you're 75% done. You can physically see that. When you're looking at an e-reader, you don't have that same kind of connection. Now, e-readers are amazing. I can bring 1,500 books with me on a vacation. Like, this is not to say that e-readers need to go away, but I think there's still a market for books. That's all I'm getting at.
You might be on to something, Ryan. So, like, when I first learned how to program, it was exactly that. You go to Barnes and Noble, you go to your shop, you grab a book, learn how to program Java, learn how to program Visual Basic. And, I just sat there and skimmed through it. It seemed like that book was 2,000 pages long. I had every little primitive and data structure imaginable. But now I haven't learned the programming language since those. So maybe you're on to something.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'd be more effective at this if I went back and picked up another book on something. No, I'm just kidding about that. But
I think Sherrod's vibe coding. That's what I think's happening. You just vibe code now. You go to AI, you tell it to code for you, and you got some vibe code going.
Yeah.
That's an interesting story in itself, which we'll get into some of that discussion in Sherrod's section. But is there going to be coders in the future, or is there just going to be people who know the structure of code and utilize AI to do everything? And I think that's an interesting question in itself. But first of all, thank you so much for sending in this feedback. This is awesome. It kicked off a whole bunch of different feelings and even research in there. That's why we love hearing from you in our community, because you guys add all of these additional elements and layers that we may not get to in the initial discussion. So if you want to send in your comments, go to destinationlinux.net/comments, or you can go to destinationlinux.net/forum and send those in to us.
There's nothing like data that backs Ryan's bias. That's awesome.
That's it. If you have data that backs my bias, send that in. If you have data that doesn't back it, I don't want to talk to you.
You're not welcome here.
Good one, Sherrod.
I love it. All right. Well, I'm not biased about this because as Linux users, we know what's up. Security is non-negotiable. With threats getting smarter, your security tools need to keep pace without dragging your system down. And traditional agents, they can slow your system down. There can be blind spots, and it's time for a smarter approach. So this week, we are talking about Sandfly Security, the revolutionary agentless platform designed for Linux. Go to destinationlinux.net/Sandfly and see how Sandfly can transform your security needs. Timothy Lisko of DigitalOcean says Sandfly is one of the most exciting pieces of security tech they've seen recently. They're excited to not only be a customer, but they also offer an integrated solution to their customers through the DigitalOcean marketplace. This technology addresses Linux security in a really novel and compelling way. That's from DigitalOcean. That's not my words. That's theirs. Sandfly doesn't just detect and respond. It revolutionizes security with SSH key tracking, password auditing, drift detection, covering threats from every angle, whether your systems are in the cloud, on-premise, or on embedded devices. Experience security that's not just effective, but gives you peace of mind. No agents, no downtime, just cutting-edge protection.
And for all our viewers, the home edition of Sandfly Security is now available. And to all our listeners of Destination Linux, they have an incredible offer for you of 50% off if you use the discount code Destination50. That's Destination50. Dive into the future of Linux security at destinationlinux.net/Sandfly. That's destinationlinux.net/SANDFLY, and see how Sandfly can transform your security strategy.
Hey, Jill, we got an interesting comment last week that from YouTube, and they said they got Sandfly and they were trying to install Sandfly, the entire instance, it sounded like, on a Raspberry Pi. And they weren't having success with that because I don't think it was meant for that kind of thing. But interesting thing, because they said even said they're not the target audience, and they knew that member for it, but they were trying something different. And I love people experimenting and hacking with stuff because, like, what the heck? Why not? Like, let's see if we can get this baby to work on that. But I was thinking about their issue, and in case they're listening again this week, what crossed my mind is, what if you went to DigitalOcean, dropped your Sandfly instance, and then had it SSH into your Raspberry Pi?
Yeah,
that may work for you to play
one.
around if you're going to hack around with it. And if you do, let me know if it works, because I think that would probably be a pretty cool use case. And also, thank you for hacking around with stuff, because it's just freaking awesome. I love you guys for that. It's just awesome. So, Sherrard, speaking of hacking around with stuff and vibe coding, you know, you work in AI. So you officially are the enemy of many people. No, I'm teasing. You work in AI.
So the AI overlords tell me.
Yes. We saw some of the amazing things at the Red Hat Summit that's going on with AI. There's a lot of people who are, on the fence about AI. There's people who love it. There's people who hate it. There's all that stuff with any new technology. So it's always awesome to have you on to talk about AI. What are you thinking? What's going on in the future with AI right now?
Yeah. So you know what? I've been thinking a lot about Linux, and really, I just want to start with, good Lord, how bright the future of Linux is. And Jill's going to talk about some really cool stuff. What we do, we hear a lot about quantum computing and the role that Linux is playing there. The pure pluggability aspect of it, the open source nature of it. It's a great environment to do quantum research and development, and simulate quantum computers. And, with AI, it's just, it's one out, right? It's the dominant thing in AI. And, so I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, what does the future of Linux look like when it comes to AI itself? And so I do a lot of playing around on my own machine. And the first question I had for you guys is what do you all do on the side? Like, Jill, Ryan, we're all hackers. We've done this before. I don't hack as much as I used to, but I'm curious, like, what does your Linux AI stack look like? What are your favorite tools that you use? You're running on Linux, you're hacking away, doing some AI stuff. What does that look like?
Oh boy. So I've been using Olama since it came out in terminal.
Of course, Jill. Of course, in the terminal. Like, do you still web browse in the terminal? I feel like you use Browse, Jill, and you're just like browsing websites through the terminal.
Yeah.
And I really, really love that. And I also have been starting to use more front ends for it, like Olami. Mm-hmm. And there's quite a few out there. There's some that are available on flathub.org. And so I had actually started using it because of the shows, and because of doing Destination Linux, and I do another podcast as well on another network.
Traitor.
Complete
traitor. We just found this out, Sherrard. We never knew she was a traitor until this very moment. No. We just found. No, I'm teasing.
Next week's episode, we'll have a replacement for Jill.
Oh my gosh.
The community would literally light the show on fire if we did that. Like, Jill is immutable to all at this point. She's the only one of us that's allowed to be a traitor.
She has clemency.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. So yeah, I've been doing the other podcasts for 9 years, Linux Weekly Daily Wednesday on the linuxgamecast.com network. And I can't believe it's been 9 years, and I've been here for just over 5 now. Oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
So anyways, I had started using Olama because several of our patrons over at Linux Gamecast were working with it and wanted me to test their software, front ends that they were developing. So that's how that started.
That's very cool. And that's a cool use case.
Yeah.
For me, AI has become a very big part of my career outside of the podcast, but also a big part of the podcast itself. So what I use is ChatGPT for All is one of my big go-tos, and or GPT for All, not ChatGPT for All. I always get that one messed up. In fact, in my video that I have coming out next Tuesday, where I teach you how to train a model in GPT for All, I accidentally say ChatGPT for All there too. But GPT for All, if you're not aware, is a local software program that you can download for those listening. And you can download all kinds of different open source models in there, like DeepSeek, Mistral, all those things. And in those, you can, and they do take a lot of space, and you do have to have a pretty beefy machine at times to run them. Actually, I have a very beefy machine that I just built, and it started shutting down resources today because I was running multiple models at once. So they can become, these models that the reason why NVIDIA and all these places are spending billions of dollars on these huge centers is when you're training models, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of processing, but it's so neat that we can do things locally. And so, for instance, if I'm going to write an article, if I see something interesting in the news for our show notes here, I can go to AI because of models I've created and tell it, hey, give me the bullet points in a Destination Linux show format from this article and the key points. And that will cut down on all the research and work that I used to have to do to manually sit there and type in bullet points for stuff. So that's one way that it's really affected me. The other way is coding. There are certain projects that I have in my mind for the open source community that I think would be cool, but I don't really want to sit there, nor do I have the time to write it because college, family, podcast network, all of this stuff. So one of those was a system hardening detection tool that I was like, man, it would be cool because if you've ever traveled and you work for a corporation, one of the things that they do to your laptop is they harden it. And to harden it, they make sure things like BIOS passwords are set. You don't have ability to boot from USB, blah, 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 all those things. So I thought, what a cool program. So I vibe coded it and I released it out there as open source. And it will work on Mac, it works on Windows, and it works on Linux. Now, when I vibe coded this, it took a long time to get it right. So AI gave me a structure. It's not the fastest
yet, right?
Yeah, it gave me a structure, but it was wrong a lot. And I had to go in and keep giving it new commands and ideas. And even at one point, it coded, basically it decided, hey, I'm kind of done dealing with Ryan, I think. And it basically just spit out something that would make the checks say yes across the board. Yes, you have this. Yes, you have an antivirus. Yes, your BIOS passwords, just to get me to go away. And I picked up on it and I was like, hey, you hard coded yeses in here. And it's like, oh, I was just giving you a sample of it. Well, I'm like, sure, they were trying to shut me down from the server. But in any case, my point is that project still would have taken me far longer without AI. It is a very powerful tool, but you have to understand its limits. And I think there's the people who are fearful of it and haven't touched it. And I think some of that fear, honestly, would go away if you play with it some more.
Yeah.
Because you'll kind of realize, it's not the replacement for employees or humans that people think it is yet. Maybe one day it's going to get there. I can tell you right now, today, it's definitely not, but it is a useful tool.
And I want to double tap on that in a second here as well. My stack of choice, Olama, I'm with you, Jill. Great, fantastic. Using the hugging face transformers.
Yeah, that's a good one.
VS Code, it's a great stack. That combination of things and Jupyter Notebook environment, hack away. But boy, oh boy, like the past 6 months, I have been hooked on Claude Code and running that in the console. And
nice.
This is one of the reasons why I haven't picked up a new programming language book. Tying this together with what you were saying, Ryan, there may be a future where people are like, e-reader, what's that? Why would I ever use an e-reader?
What's a computer? Right?
So no, it's interesting. So one of the things I wanted to chat with you all about, when we look at AI in the intersection of Linux, we talked about how to create using AI. But there's a movement going on right now embedding AI directly into the operating system, right?
Yeah.
And so you're
Yeah.
starting to see this, there's some SUSE things, there's some RHEL things that are happening in Fedora, and you're going to see more of this where it's like an assistant baked into it. Even Windows has this with Copilot. And I started thinking, like, what does that experience look like? And is the Linux community going to get out pitchforks when this happens and say, hey, don't worry about this AI assistant, it's going to do all of your IT ops for you, or your IT operations for you. Are they going to bring the pitchforks? Are they going to, the first thing they do, you install your Linux, and the first thing you do, you start disabling stuff, right? Or you get it, you get it tweaked exactly. Like, is that going to be the first thing that gets disabled? Or do you think, is there a small possibility that the Linux gurus will embrace this new world where AI is baked into the Linux operating system? It's kind of coming, it's going to be there. So
like it or not.
Yeah, like it or not.
Yeah. Oh, I'll let you go, Jill, because I've got a lot of thoughts on this. This is such a good question, by the way, and there's so many different ways you can go with it. But Jill, what do you think?
Well, actually, I like that RHEL was one of the first companies. Red Hat was one of the first companies to do this in the terminal.
Sorry, let me just wipe my brow here. I'm just sweating a little bit. Yes. Sorry.
There's your Red Hat hat. I've got mine here too on one of my penguins.
That is such a funny promotion. Like, you're gonna get that Red Hat logo in there one way or another. I love it. It.
So, RHEL doing it, it makes so much sense, especially for server side and on the edge and cloud. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
And SUSE also, and of course Windows is, well, they're trying.
Yeah. They're trying.
But yeah. And then there's, Firefox browsers like Mozilla Firefox, who's deeply in the AI game. And then there's ones like Vivaldi, which I'm using right now to bring my camera in, is anti anything AI.
Yeah.
So there's you have choices for both right now.
Yeah.
But eventually I do think it's going to be baked in to every operating system. With me, it's just a matter of how private it is, that it's local AI and it doesn't always go out to the internet.
I think that's a fantastic point, Jill,
functions.
Is that it's a trust thing. And I talked about this in a video, and this isn't a knock at Microsoft. This is just a realization of the reality of what's happened. Microsoft over the years has not created a great circle of trust. And as a result of that, they're releasing some really cool things on paper. But nobody wants to touch them because there's no trust.
Yeah.
And when you stop caring about your community, not that you don't care, but you stop listening to your community and you're like, well, I'm going to roll this stuff out anyways, or we're going to put metadata in your system and have 15 different areas where you have to change it, which you'll never find. So good luck. And you do this type of stuff. You've now created a distrust. People need your product, so they're still going to use it, but they don't trust it. And that is where I think Windows is going to have a problem. Apple has a different situation with them specifically, because Apple, right or wrong, has actually developed a reputation that they are secure and they do try to run as much stuff locally as they can, even with Siri, except it's horrible in its current state. It may get better. Now, when you go into Linux world, you have a lot of people who were escaping the privacy invasive. I mean, a lot of the reasons people came, including myself, to Linux was because of the privacy pieces that was just getting too invasive. So when you start talking about adding AI back into Linux, I think it's a matter of choice. Are you giving the users choice at install to say no?
Yeah,
or are you forcing it, enabling it by default to be installed? And that is going to make a big difference. One of the things, that makes an open source company successful is their involvement with the community and staying in touch with that, because you can easily go the direction of, we've got to keep up with Microsoft, we've got to keep up with Apple, we've got to keep up with whomever, and lose your foundation of what made the operating system important to people to begin with. And I think choice, customization, and privacy are at least at the top 5 of the reasons why people choose Linux. So I think that's a big piece of it. Now, as far as will people adopt it without pitchforks, if you look out your window right now, I looked out mine, there's people with pitchforks already, just us talking about this. That's never.
They reverse located my IP already.
They already knew. Yeah, they're fast, boy. There's always people in the community who are going to go nuclear on everything because they believe, and they have some proof to back this up because it's happened at times, that once you give an inch, people take a mile. So once you'd be like, okay, just put it in the installer. Then the next thing you know, it's enabled by default. Then the next thing you know, some open source operating systems like, hey, we have snapshots that store into a cloud and show every 15 seconds what you were browsing. And so they think it's a slippery slope. And there's many cases where that's true, right? We accept something and it becomes a slippery slope. So it's not like they're not justified in it. But I've told people on this show, and I believe this wholeheartedly, the best advice I can give as somebody with 26 years in telecom, with big corporations, running my own businesses, is that if you don't understand AI, you will be left behind. Mm-hmm. Your career will suffer from it. That doesn't mean you have to embrace it in everything you do, but you better understand it. You better know how to use it. You better know how to customize it. And if you don't, it's going to be like the time when the internet came out and saying, that's too privacy invasive. I'm not going to learn the internet. And I don't think there's a lot of careers left in the world where you don't use the internet. That's my thought.
I think that's spot on. And when I look at the role of the Linux admin and the systems admin and what they're responsible for, especially, the ones that we talk to, they're responsible for thousands and thousands of VMs and thousands of servers. I think the ones who find the interesting ways to leverage AI to manage that complex infrastructure from the edge all the way to the hyperscaler clouds, they're going to be the ones that are very successful. And it made me start thinking, like, let's extrapolate maybe 10 years down the road, when all of these AI systems are prevalent inside the operating system. It's going to be like, kernels on steroids, right? And so like you have all these things going on and doing work on maybe the work of a junior admin. Does that then change the way we interact with Linux? Does it even change the Linux wars itself, right? Have so many distributions. Does it matter the nuances between distributions? And I'm just like, kind of stoking the flames here, but you have this AI abstraction layer. Do you need to know the differences between Debian, between Fedora, between Arch, between all these other distributions? Or are you just talking to something that handles that nuance for you? I thought it was like a fascinating way that this could all go in the future. Or this could all be a wash and we're back to square one.
Yeah. What do you think, Jill?
Well, now that, 90% of the applications people often use seem to be on the web. So
Yeah.
So there is, we have, like Ryan's going to talk about Chrome OS, and we have Microsoft has hinted for years that they're going to put everything in the cloud because everything's web-based.
Well, they did that with OneDrive. And in some cases, like now if you install Windows, you immediately have OneDrive, basically.
That's annoying as hell.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's like annoying. And they only give you like five gig of... you upload like 3 videos and it's complaining to purchase more.
And then everything defaults to it. So like when you're looking at your downloads, they've mimicked your local file system into a OneDrive file system. So you can't easily tell that you're actually in your OneDrive file system because the folder structure is the same. And so then you realize you're out of space because you haven't been saving things locally, you've been saving them in the cloud. But they are doing everything in their power essentially to say, hey, we want you in the cloud. We want to leverage our cloud stuff.
You install a new version of Windows and the stuff that's in the cloud starts dumping onto your local machine, whether you want it or not.
Yeah. This created an interesting problem for me because I had bought a laptop and I was using it for the vacation that I was going on. I needed something I wanted smaller, kind of portable. I was going to put Linux on it. The laptop had a hardware issue on it, and so it was basically just shutting off randomly. Went through tech support, blah blah blah. I knew what was wrong, but you know how tech support is. They got to do their own thing. So I was like, okay, you know, I'll ship it to you. But the problem is that they want you to ship it to them with the default operating system on it, which was Windows. And they want you logged in so that they can recreate the steps. So they want you, there's like a little form. It's like, put your username, put your password. Now, the problem with that is that
just OneDrive,
lots of problems. But one of the many problems with that is I was thinking about me. It doesn't matter. I don't use Windows. And if you got into my OneDrive, you would literally probably see one document that was like a text document README or something. But I was thinking about other people. Here they are sending their machines. They're by default having all of their OneDrive access there, and you're sending it to a tech you don't know. And all of your personal files, photos, tax records, anything could be stored in there. Really, really bad setup. But in any case, you know, I was going to talk about Chrome OS because to me, there's a lot of similarities you can draw with AI in the internet. For a lot of us who aren't old enough, you may not remember when the internet took over, but I remember very distinctly being considered a genius in my workplace because I could use the internet to search things in a unique way that other people couldn't, right?
Yeah,
that today is just basic knowledge. But you got to remember back then, people barely knew how to turn on a computer. Like it wasn't just something you were went to school and knew. So I think AI is kind of going to go down that road. But Google made a big bet. They said, hey, you don't need a desktop anymore. We're going to do this thing called Chrome OS, and it's just going to basically a browser. Your computer is going to open up, and you're going to have a browser there because 90% of what most people do on their computer is just a browser. When I hear your question, I almost hear you saying like, hey, is it possible that we're going to boot up our machines and essentially you're going to have an AI prompt? And there are a lot of people out there, technologists, who are talking about this as a potential reality, right? That they believe that the computers we use today won't exist, that your computer is going to boot up, you're going to have an AI prompt there. And you may be thinking, well, how do I do the Word document and stuff? Well, you would literally just say, make me a Word document. I want it to be a document about our security posture at XYZ company. And this is the stuff that I want in it. And it's going to go create that document for you. And maybe then you start editing, you know, it shows up and you start editing and cleaning it up. But as far as needing to get to your desktop and doing things the traditional way, that may not exist. I think that is a bold goal that Google bet on with the internet and failed, not miserably, but it wasn't the success they thought it would be. I don't want to say failed. It didn't hit where they thought it was going to hit, although it's been mildly successful. I think AI will be the same. I think there will be people who will probably have an interface like that. I think that's where Microsoft wants to go for sure, based on some of their recent announcements. But I think there's going to be a lot of people who are resistant to that as well, because AI, as good as it is not what is being touted as, nor is it the investment that people have put in it has given us what we expected yet.
Yeah, it's going to be really fascinating over the next couple of years to see the players like OpenAI, the players like Perplexity, like Anthropic, to see if they take it one step further beyond the browser to the OS itself and try to compete with Linux, try to compete with Microsoft, compete with Chrome OS in that space. So I'm super excited about. Competition is great. It's going to spur more innovation. Everyone could completely say this is wacky, I'm never going to adopt it. But boy, oh boy, it's just going to be fascinating to see.
There's so much money being dumped in it.
It's exciting.
I don't know what the future is going to look like, but I know that they're going to find a way to use it in a lot of more ways just because of the amount of money that has been poured into it. Now, you mentioned quantum computing. In your role, you have an interesting parent company and things that are very involved with supercomputers, quantum computing. I'm so curious how you think that's going to play into this, because up until this point, quantum computing's kind of been this really cool thing for us nerds,
Yep.
but not a lot of use cases out of it.
Yeah, it's tough to see. It's really the first pass that we're taking a look at is really on the encryption side. Like that's the last line of defense for a lot of the systems when it comes to the security, the tokens and the keys and whatnot. That's the first thing that we've been focused on. But we have started the conversation. How does quantum change the dynamic of AI and what's happening there? So that's the one that I'm fascinated about. I'm not as looped into the details of those conversations, but they are starting. And I think that's going to be an interesting intersection. Of course, yes, we want to handle the security side. That's what we do as Red Hat. We want to handle the security side first, make sure that every Linux operating system has post-quantum encryption algorithms available to them. But it is going to be very interesting, like not just taking Linux as the environment you use to develop your quantum toolkit and mimic quantum computers, but actually running these workloads, these AI workloads on top of it. That's going to be pretty cool to see.
That's
Is there
awesome.
a future where I have a quantum computer sitting on my desk?
I hope so, because that feels like
future I
Star
want.
Trek, right? That feels
baby.
like finally I'm on
Exactly.
the Enterprise when that happens. I don't know why, but just those words make me feel like I'm like Geordie LaForge, just like, oh man, I got my
Yes.
quantum computer. I'm making this thing happen.
Exactly. And I always look at it like, for instance, the IBM Watson, and it was the first well-known AI computer,
Yeah.
and now they're using it to go through all the math computations to help get rid of cancer and a lot of our health ailments. And the amount of speed it can take now with a quantum computer feeding that same information in is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I think that the health industry is one of the most important. It's going to help solve a lot of those diseases and issues. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's gonna be awesome to see.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious what hackers are going to do with this thing when they get a hold of it. It's like, oh wow, I didn't think about that application.
Yeah.
Sherrod, it's funny in my career. I've as long as I've been with in telecom and stuff, I've seen some stuff. I've been through some technology, and when I saw AI coming, I got involved right away from that aspect. But then immediately went back to college for cybersecurity, because I saw what a lot of people, Red Hat is ahead in, what a lot of people aren't thinking about is the dangers this creates from a security standpoint.
Oh, yeah.
Not just quantum computers, but just AI in general in the hands of people, even these local models. I mean, one of the things with a local model is, yes, it's private. Also, a lot of them don't have the same guardrails.
Yeah.
So they can be very, very dangerous, because you can start training them on things that you want to, and that can be nefarious. So this creates lots of potential security issues. But I think when you have companies like Red Hat, and look, we give a lot of corporations a hard time, especially in the Linux community sometimes, for things that we don't like that they do or whatever. But when we were at the Red Hat Summit and you all announced, the very first thing was, hey, we're incorporating quantum level protection for encryption, was a huge announcement. It was one of the headline announcements. Meant the world to me personally, because it means you're putting the priorities right of how you look at this thing. You need guardrails, you need security. Then let's look at what we can do from the power of this thing. And I was just very proud at that moment to be at the summit and hear that. And of course, because there's so much work that's being done there that's open source, this benefits everybody.
Yeah.
So it's just very cool.
It's nice to have a parent company where they're literally one of the key inventors of this technology, and being able to work side by side with them on this, the research side of it, the Red Hat side of it, it's phenomenal to see. So it's super exciting stuff. I can't wait. So we kind of joke around, like every year it's like quantum's still 10 years out, right? 10 years ago, quantum was 10 years out. 20 years ago, quantum was 10 years out.
Yeah.
Then I was talking to some of my colleagues and they were like, it's only 5 years out. I was like, okay, now we, okay, all right.
It's the year of the Linux desktop. It's the year of the Linux desktop. Those two run in parallel, you know?
You remember the big deal way back when, it's like 10, 20 years ago was, we're going to have lasers and hard drives.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting. I was doing a computer build with my son and I'm showing him a hard drive today. And I was thinking back to when my dad was training me on how to build a computer. And I was holding this big brick, this big brick, and you had an IDE cable and you had a power cable. And now I'm taking this tiny little NVMe M2 and I'm just
sliding it on the motherboard.
This tiny chip. And that's your hard drive. And then he was asking these great questions about, well, how's that different than your memory sticks that are here? And, so I'm kind of going through that, but they look similar now. Like they're not as indistinguishable as they were before. And so it's fascinating to even watch how our technology has changed in such a short amount of time. I'm excited about the quantum computer future. I know there has been continuous issues of how do you kind of get it to focus and accomplish a goal, but that's just time, people. Like eventually the breakthrough happens and then we won't be able to remember a future where we didn't have it. And that is exciting.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be really, to me, I'm excited. I'm just looking at my putting my sci-fi hat on. Is that the moment where AI really takes off? The intersection of both of those, like we can only do so much because we're burning down the data centers now. But once quantum computer comes, maybe that changes the game quite a bit.
Yeah,
I think so. I think it's definitely possible. Make it so. I like it, Jill. I like it. I think that the future needs to be embraced by people. If I could leave anything with the community, it's that resistance is good as far as like test how people are releasing things, ask the questions of what's the privacy, ask the questions on how's the security, but don't use that as a wall to say you'll never use anything like it, because I think it will hurt you ultimately.
And I will say specifically to the Linux community, the Linux community is in a special place to where, unlike any other type of operating system, they can be a part of the solution to the future of this, ensuring it's done correctly. Now, you can't say that with all the other technologies that are being done behind closed doors. This is all out in the open. We get to be a part of this innovation, a part of this revolution versus sitting on the sidelines.
Absolutely. Yeah. And having AI open source helps with those guardrails and security and the growth.
Yep. By the way, everyone, Sherrard came up with that topic on his own, and we are 47 minutes into the show. If that tells you anything about how good of a topic you picked for your first hosting event here. And You're now awesome. I feel almost embarrassed to switch to my topic because yours was so good. So, Jill, what's your topic? No, I'm kidding. I've got something that kind of fits along this. I have been installing new distros recently. Sherrard, cover your ears, Arch. And as I was installing these distros, I started to realize, because the first time I did the new Arch install and the new build, I did it as an ext4 file system. And I was like, it's Arch. I love Arch, but I want ButterFS so I can do Snappy and be able to get back in case an update breaks something. So I redid my install. And I realized that I had this cadence with what software I was installing each time first. Like, what was the most important thing to get on my system? And with Arch, you don't really get anything pre-installed. So you literally are picking like what browser you want, what notepad app you want. I mean, it don't give you nothing. It's not user-friendly in that way. So it got me thinking, like, what are our favorite apps? Like the first apps that we have to install when you're doing a new machine, you're doing a new setup and all of that. So I figured I'd go through a couple of mine, and then I want to hear your Sherrard's and Jill's of like your most important apps that you have to have. And the first one for me that I just did a video on is called Notes Nook. And if you go to my DOS Geek channel, I have a complete review of it. Now, a lot of people know me from utilizing a Simple Note. and Standard Notes were two that were really good back in the day, and I still love them. That doesn't take away from that. But Notes Nook is where I found my home for a note-taking app. It impressed me how much I can't live without this app. Like all of my thoughts, all of my instructions to myself on how to get things set up, just, notes for shows, ideas for business, everything I keep in these note apps. And Notes Nook it doesn't care what operating system you're on. I can have it on my phone, Apple, Android. I can have it on my desktop. I can have it on an iPad or tablet of any kind. Like it's OS agnostic, which is a big part of it. All the notes sync instantly, which is very important because I'm often one of those people that will put a note in my phone and then I'm like, I need to expand on that. Let me pull out the big guns, grab my laptop, and I want that note there the second that laptop opens. And so the sync has to be fast, and it hits that. It's open source,
Yay.
It's secure, and I just absolutely love it. So if you're looking for a note-taking app, you haven't found a home with some of the others, Notes Nook is one of those. Vivaldi's next with Privacy Badger extension installed. So that's EFF's Privacy Badger tool, which I absolutely love. It's a great protection for your privacy and things. If you have any extension, at least one you're going to install, Privacy Badger needs to be in your list. Bitwarden, obviously, a password manager is a must because that's how I'm going to get into all my web programs, Jill, like you mentioned, because
Yes.
I have a different password for everything. And they're very advanced, complex passwords that are generated by Bitwarden. And so there is no way I could get into my stuff without Bitwarden. So Bitwarden's very much a must on there. VLC, Steam, and Kdenlive. Today,
Nice.
the video that will come out Tuesday was edited in Kdenlive. Sometimes I do DaVinci Resolve. It has some very fancy tools and things. But a lot of times it's just quicker for me to boot up Kdenlive if I haven't made a ton of mistakes in my video, and just do some quick cuts and throw some intros in, and boom, I've got a video editing app, completely open source and free. And then, KDE Connect is what I'm using right now to send notes to the teleprompter that I utilize on this, which goes to my Fairphone 4 and basically sends those notes up to the teleprompter app. And I can just sit here and look like I actually do all of this off the top of my head. And people are like, wow, he's so smart. Nobody actually said that, but I'm thinking that's what you are thinking. And it's really just a teleprompter. So that I think is pretty cool in itself. So
nice.
Those are kind of my must-have apps. What about you guys?
Oh boy, it's gonna be hard for me to pick just 5.
You get
top
5,
apps.
Jill. That's it.
That's it.
Just 5. If you go 6, you get punished.
Ryan actually picked 10, and that's no fair. He had 10 in the show notes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right.
So I'm gonna just name 16.
Whoa,
I can't.
Jill.
She has a script.
Realize,
She has see, all you had to do, Jill, is say, look, I have a script that I use to install these, which the script counts as just one.
Yeah. There you go.
Install 16 things.
And by the way, that's true. Whenever I set up a new podcasting rig, I have a script that I wrote years ago that loads up all the major apps I use.
Remember
for
in the intro when I said Jill's being sassy? Now you guys know what I'm talking about. I didn't make that up. 16 she picks. I gave her 5. All right, go, Jill. What are your 16?
Steam.
Of course.
Yes.
You're a gamer. Yep.
Heroic Games Launcher.
All right.
Lutris.
Lutris is awesome.
Discord.
Naturally.
Vivaldi. Florp, one of my favorite Firefox-based web browsers. Inksy for showing system information in the command line, and HTOP, as well as Xterm because I'm old school. I like the old terminal because I came from Unix.
You don't use Terminator, none of that stuff. You're straight Xterm. Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm pretty much Xterm. And Vim, because sometimes it actually isn't installed. Sometimes just Vi is installed, so I install Vim.
Interesting.
GIMP, have to have that. Just classic for doing quick edits of pictures and photos. Blender, of course, because I was an animation teacher. Kdenlive, because I like just like Ryan, I like how quick and easy it is. I've been using professional editors all my life, and it's just nice to boot up Kdenlive and pop it in and do your transitions and render out, and you're done.
Yeah.
And OBS, Open Broadcaster Studio, for doing podcasting. And also Pavu Control, which is the pulse audio control that you can adjust your gain on your mics and your browser audio and any audio that's coming through Linux. And you can
Does that still work with Pipewire?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Because I'm
Yeah, I
using
thought
it right
would.
now. Yeah, with Pipewire with no problem, because Pipewire still uses Pulse.
That's what I thought. I figured it would work because it uses Pulse on the back end, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah. And I also use a GUVC view to set up my camera before I podcast, because you can what's awesome about that is you could set it to different codecs you want to use. You can do zoom in and adjust all your settings, 60 frames per second. Like right now I'm 1080p 60, or you can set it up 24 or 30 or whatever.
Humble brag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm 4K right now, truly. But
oh wow.
Yeah.
Just keep bragging
Very
there,
nice.
Jill.
No.
But
Very nice.
you know what's
But no, I usually do 1080 for Destination Linux because that's our output,
there's a lot of software that I think when you say can open source be better than proprietary software, that there's a couple on your list, Jill, that in my opinion set the standard. Blender is one of those.
Absolutely.
And OBS is another. Like these are standards
industry
across
standard.
any distro at this point, and they're just fantastic examples of what open source can do. Yeah. Sherrard, it's your turn. Did you pick 16 too?
Yeah. So Jill, are you sure you don't have any more? Because that was kind of light on.
It was light.
No, I actually want to comment on Jill's too. I'm glad you said Vim, because that has a special place in my heart as well. Just always knew that.
Oh, you just made a lot of fans. You just made a lot of fans.
So the funny thing about this, I was thinking about this question. This really made me think about the old days and why I started downloading this software. And it was clearly because I was too poor to purchase the popular versions of this. One of the ones that, Jill, you mentioned Blender. That makes me think of my brother. My brother's in the film industry, but he started off with special effects, visual effects for movies. And
I remember talking to you
I think
about
we might
that,
have talked
because we
about
had
it
a similar background. Yeah.
And so back in the day when he was first getting started, of course, we could only afford one license to Poser, and you couldn't afford the upgrade the next time the new one came out. So it's like, okay, what do we switch to? We switched to Blender, and he started teaching me Blender and whatnot. So fond memories of me and my brother with those 3D applications. Mine, good Lord, when I first every machine, I start off with GIMP, and the reasons for that is weird because I guess it goes back to my full stack days when I used to code a lot. And always doing web designs and trying to design icons and whatnot, and applications that are visual. I used to always grab GIMP first, and why? Because I couldn't afford Photoshop, right? Look, we're a startup. We don't have money for all this, so we always went with GIMP. Chrome, I might be on the outside here, but I've always just gotten used to downloading Chrome.
He meant Chromium, everyone. Chromium. He meant that. No matter what he says, he meant Chromium.
Chromium. Yes. Audacity. I always do a lot of audio stuff.
Such a good one.
So you know what? It's simple, but it's good. It's really good at what it does. Always grab that. VS Code. Why did I grab VS Code? Because my dad's license to MSDN expired and I needed other options back then. And so, they came out with VS Code, and I've been using it ever since. And then, nowadays Claude Code, it's not free, but actually the free version, but I pay for it. But that's like my go-to now. Every time I set up a new machine lately, just, automatically install Claude Code on there as well. That's mine. I'm going to keep it to 5. But I snuck in a couple others there because
see, Jill, that's how you follow rules, Jill.
That's awesome. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so happy what you said about GIMP, because it reminded me one of my favorite things about the GIMP that a lot of people don't realize. The GIMP was one of the very first programs you can animate on in Linux.
Yeah.
And there was a wonderful book out about animating in Linux, and I used to talk to the author and kind of gave her. She always wanted input from me on what to improve and everything, which was really really special. And so I always make sure to use that when I show my students. So because they can do basic 2D animation in the GIMP with the Gap plugins and whatnot. So, and the filters and the script foo. People don't realize that was one of the first programs you can animation and you could do animated GIFs and the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
It's very powerful. And you mentioned not being able to afford Photoshop. And even after 27 years of working in corporate, I still can't afford Photoshop. So I still utilize these apps here because it's so darn expensive. I'm curious, you had a subscription to Claude Code. Do you have a subscription to multiple AI tools, or are you stuck with one right now that you're like, I'm just going to pay for this one?
Yeah, you know what? Claude is the only one I pay for right now.
Interesting.
I just figured I'd master that, and if it can't do what it's gotten me far enough to where everything I need to do, it's been able to do. It's the agentic AI, all those things. So far, so good. That the combination, and of course, VS Code has Copilot built into it. I haven't really used that at all. I just default to Claude Code. So it's just everything I need to get started. I'm even, I don't know. I've been stretching the limits on what I should use Claude Code for. And then you inevitably hit that daggone your tokens are up and you have to wait until XYZ for your token to continue your project. And it's like, oh my gosh. But it's really good.
One of the few advantages of going back to college at my age is you get a discount on these. So I have multiple AIs because you get the student versions of them. And so that to me is like worth going to college for right there. Just take one class forever and then get your discount, just take forever on that one class. Yeah. That's
that's
a
very
good little
helpful
tip and trick there. But it's interesting because these AI tools are so different from each other. What you can do in Claude effectively versus what you can do in Grok, Gemini, or Copilot are completely, I won't say completely different, but they're very different specialties that each one can do. And so from that aspect, it's fun to play around with some different ones. But like you, Sherrod, I pick one that I'm like, this is my go-to for what I need right now for the most part. But what's interesting is watching them grow too. There was a moment where I played with Gemini and I was like, this is the biggest joke on the AI planet. And there's no excuse because Google has a lot of data.
Right.
But today, I can tell you Gemini has improved a lot. It is so much better. So it's interesting to also watch them evolve and get better. And that will kind of help, I think, also for people to do that, to understand where AI really is and maybe even stoke some of the fears that remove some of the fears that they have about AI replacing people. That's not to say businesses aren't silly and replacing people already before they should. We've seen examples of that. It's not gone well. The smart companies are the ones that are basically arming their employees with AI tools and enhancing their abilities, not replacing them with the AI. So that's my take and what I've seen out there. Jill, we are almost out of time. In fact, we are, but this we cannot pass up. We have
this one.
to talk about this. So
this is my fault. We didn't get to this sooner.
No, it was great discussion.
Okay. I can do it quick.
All right, Jill, what do you got?
Okay, OMG. This is something we have been waiting years for, and I mean years.
So excited.
Valve just announced a new Steam machine this morning, that will be available in early 2026.
Hot off the presses.
And I squeed. I went,
I believe that. I actually believe that.
Because, remember, Ryan, when we did that, when we got our Steam Decks, we were some of the first people to get them. It was a big deal. It was huge. So this cube-shaped black small form factor PC is optimized for gaming and will provide easy access to your entire Steam library. And you can connect the Steam machine to your TV as a multimedia set-top box or on your desk with your computer monitor. And of course, it runs Linux and Valve's very own Arch-based SteamOS. I had to mention Arch because we have Ryan,
Jill.
you know.
I feel better. Yeah. By the way, I run Arch if anyone was wondering. All right.
You all are killing me.
Yeah. Also, it is much more powerful than the Steam Deck. I was hoping so. I with the rumors, I'm sure it would be.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is capable of 4K gaming at 60 frames per second with FSR enabled using a discrete semi-custom AMD Zen 4 up to 4.8 gigahertz CPU and a semi-custom AMD RDNA 3 GPU. Just like what they did with the Steam Deck. They worked with AMD to optimize it for their software.
Yep. Yeah. Very smart.
Yeah. And it has, the Steam machine has 16 gigabytes DDR5 of RAM and 8 gigabytes GDDR6 VRAM on the GPU. So
nice.
Pretty sweet. And there will be 2 models available, a 512 gigabyte version or a 2 terabyte version of NVMe SSD storage with expandable storage via high-speed micro SD. I found that interesting that they included the micro SD in their little
I got an advertisement, computer. Jill, from I think it was on Amazon or something for a 2 terabyte micro SD. I'm like, that is insane that we can now put that much storage on this little tiny card. So I'm not surprised. Yeah. You know, when I initially hear that, you think, is it going to be fast enough? Is the speed going to, but they've advanced so much with the speed that, not surprised.
Yeah. And this little computer is customizable on the front, and it showed stickers and pictures that people have put on the front. And I don't know how they're going to have the customization, maybe through their website or something. I don't know yet.
Yeah.
But it even has a unicorn vomit RGB strip on the front.
Nice. There you go.
And that also shows...
It's like it's made just for you, Jill.
It'll be pink. She'll make it pink. Yes.
Absolutely. And what's neat about the RGB strip, it solves 2 problems. It actually will show you the download speed of what you're downloading in blue.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So they put a little graphics in there. That's nice.
Yeah, little graphics. And there's no price announced yet, but you can bet because it is Valve, it'll be affordable like the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
And I am calling this sweet machine the Gabe Cube. LOL.
I like it.
Gabe Newell, the CEO of Valve. And also, it looked to me a lot like Valve's Next Cube.
Yeah, that could be a good one too. So you're naming it already. You want one so bad. Now, Sherrard, I don't know what Red Hat's like purchase order process is, but do you think we could slip in there 3 of these for each of us for testing purposes?
We need some distributed computing for something, right? I don't know.
Something. We'll do some project there with it. No, but this is cool. This is super.
This is amazing.
Now, are you a gamer, Sherrard?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm definitely a gamer. I have been gaming since good Lord, I don't know, since I can remember. Started on Atari 2600,
nice.
And just been gaming ever since. Now, of course, I don't game as much as I would like because
you don't have time.
Very expensive gaming room that I built is now mostly occupied by my children. But that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. But this is fantastic. I thought about this as I heard the announcement earlier today. And 2 things struck me. First, this wasn't the only hardware announcement from Valve, right?
Correct.
So they actually also announced the Frame, which it's called, which is their VR headset. So Valve is quietly becoming a hardware company, which is very interesting to see before our eyes. They're going straight after Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo. So that's one thing that's interesting about this. But the other thing that I find really fascinating, I started thinking about this, like Linux has always missed, in my opinion, that iPod or that iPhone type of product to really just make things catch on and it goes mainstream. And the more Valve does this, Valve may be the first company that gets us there, right? Is, the more that they do this,
literally.
yeah, like they're changing the game with gaming. This is a console that's Linux based, and this is their version of it, right? They didn't farm this out to someone else. This is a very interesting path that they're going down, and if this becomes successful, is this the commercial success of Linux that we've been waiting for, right? And what follows suit? So it could be really cool to see, So I'm excited about it. I love the fact that Valve is doing this stuff. They're doing really, really cool stuff, and they're gonna. I can almost guarantee they're going to do this better than Microsoft will do with their next machine that comes out. I think the only thing I keep saying is I wish Microsoft would just base the next Windows on Linux and just say, screw it. We lost that battle.
Yes.
That'd be one thing. The second thing is, like, I think it's going to force Microsoft to really think about the competition, like creating their version of the Steam OS, where it's a gaming OS that's stripped down from all the other stuff. But boy, oh boy, I wish they would just say, you know what, let's just all jump in on Linux and let's all sing Kumbaya at the end of this thing.
Yeah.
I know, especially since most of their earnings are because of Linux and the Azure and the cloud.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. That makes sense. And I'm so happy you brought up about the Steam frame, the VR headset. There's something really huge about that. It is an ARM-based device running Linux games.
That's amazing.
It's ARM. So
that's
cool. This is pushing that technology forward. And I know a lot of the developers from Codeweavers and Valve and Glorious Agril and everyone have been working, getting games working well on ARM. Because that
ARM's
is
very important
for
Linux future. And we've already had a lot of ARM support, Raspberry Pi and things, but it's important because if you'll notice, a lot of the new laptops that are out there actually running Snapdragon processors. So today, when people go and get Linux, now you can do frameworks. You can grab a laptop from some other manufacturers with Linux on them. But a lot of people just go to Best Buy, they grab a laptop, they come home, they install Linux on it. If we didn't have that support, that capability could potentially go away. So, this is cool to push the boundaries there. But I was thinking about Microsoft, Gerard, in the Xbox, and, they're under a lot of fire right now. They created a really good value play with their Xbox Cloud, such a good value that a lot of people who didn't even like Xbox were on it just because it's like, hey, you can get all these games for whatever. I think it was like $29 a month, but then they raised the price considerably. And the fallout has been insane. Apparently there's Xboxes all over eBay. Everybody's trying to get rid of them and now switch over to PlayStation. So I was thinking, what a great time for Steam to launch this.
I agree. I agree.
Really great timing.
Perfect timing.
It's really interesting. Really good timing. The performance of Proton and the performance of Steam OS has been amazing to see. Competition is great. And so and I think Jill, when talking about what's going on with the Linux gaming as a whole. It's creeping up there, right? It's the thing what Steam now says, 3% of gamers are running on Linux now or something like that. That's this, it's a small number, but it's a small number that keeps going up. So it's interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see how the dynamics play out. And look, I still have an Xbox, sitting right next to me. I just purchased a ROG Ally X, love that thing as well. But boy, oh boy, the competition is becoming very interesting. I've always gamed on a lot of different things. I've got a Switch, I've got a game on, laptops, all that stuff. So it's really cool to see.
Yeah, it's very awesome. And, I just want to mention that I think that without Steam, Linux wouldn't be where it is today. And we owe a huge thanks to the folks at Wine. And the folks at Steam and Valve for pushing Linux where it was, because I remember when I started in Linux, I don't know what it is now, 6-7 years ago. I'm one of the youngest ones in Linux here, but I remember the number one complaint when I did my videos that people would retort with, but you can't game on it.
Yep, 100%. 100%.
And gaming is bigger than movies and music combined. as far as the amount of revenue it produces. When I heard that fact and looked it up, I couldn't believe it, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at how powerful gaming is as a movement, because I know a lot of people in our audience aren't gamers, without it, we would lose a lot of things, because that stuff that we do in gaming also moves into video, into animation, into all those accelerators and things that they're turning on and making work also affect other parts of Linux as well. So it's very important that we got here, and I don't think we'd be anywhere close if it wasn't for Valve and the Wine team and things and the work that they've done there. So huge thanks to them.
They're pushing Linux forward, the desktop forward, even if you're not a gamer. It is so important. From simple things just like multi-monitor support and Wayland and Pipewire.
Support, yep.
Yeah.
Screen recording.
Screen recording. WebRTC.
And you know what I love about it? They're unapologetic about it. They're not trying to obfuscate or abstract away the Linux. Man, they're smacking you right in the face with it and saying, look, man, this is what we're doing, and we're outperforming some of the games running natively on Windows. Like that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
We are a first-class citizen now.
Yes.
And when I started 9 years ago with Linux Gamecast, we were just edging at the bit to get a game that would even run on Linux.
Yeah. I was looking at
that wasn't 10 years old, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That was the other thing. I was looking at the most popular game right now. It's a game called Ark, and it's a kind of a survival game. And so game. I was like, can I play this on Linux? And sure enough, it is platinum. So like right out of the box, you can go play Ark, the platinum AAA game that everybody's streaming right now. And that is more of an occurrence now than the opposite of that. The only thing that doesn't run is when you have basically the malware kernel protection systems that certain companies put in place, anti-cheat.
But I think that's only a matter of time. As the community grows, they're going to solve that. They're going to solve
Exactly, 100%. Well, Sherrard, you've been amazing, as we knew you would, because you were amazing last time. You're amazing this time, and you're so amazing that you made us go overtime, which is awesome. Our community loves it when we go overtime. So thank you for joining us again, and a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting by watching or listening to Destination Linux. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be able to have awesome guests like Sherrard on. We wouldn't be heard in 190 countries. This show wouldn't be growing uncontrollably like it is, which we're so appreciative of. So thank you. And if you want to join in on a community and immediately have tons of friends with something in common, go to tuxdigital.com/Discord. Go into the chat and say, I like Linux. Boom, you got thousands of friends. That's how easy it is to make friends these days by going to our tuxdigital.com/Discord channel. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. And thanks for having me, folks. I love this. You all are phenomenal people. Really enjoy the conversation. This is super fun. And hey, I want us to have a shirt that says Destination Linux is growing like Steam OS.
I love it. That's a good one. I like that.
That's a really good one.
I love it.
That's a really good one. Well, Sherrard, we're going to let you do the honors.
Everybody have a great week. And remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Love you all.
Thanks, folks.
Sherrard.
And I love you. Bye.